Now let's talk about developing a bot with the Bot Framework SDK. The Bot Framework SDK provides an extensive set of tools and libraries that software engineers can use to develop bots. The SDK is available for multiple programming languages, including C#, Python, and JavaScript. Now, the easiest way to get started with the Bot Framework SDK is to base your new bot on one of the template it provides, like an empty bot. Now, an empty bot is a basic bot skeleton. Then we have the echo bot. So this bot responds to the messages by echoing the message text back to the user. For example, if I will say hello world, it will respond by saying you said hello word, thus echoing the same response. Then we have the core bot. A core bot is a more comprehensive bot that includes the common bot functionalities such as integration with the language understanding service. Now let's talk about bot application structure. The template bot are based on bot class defined in the Bot Framework SDK, which is used to implement a logic in your bot that receives and interprets the user input and responds appropriately. Additionally, bots make use of an adapter class that handles the communication with the user's channel. Conversation in a bot are composed of activities which represent events such as user joining a conversation or message being received. Now, these activities occur within a context of a turn, a two-way exchange between the user and the bot. The bot framework notifies your bot's adapter when the activity occurs in a channel by calling its process activity method, and the adapter creates a context for the turn and call the bot's turn handler method to invoke the appropriate logic for the activity. Now, the logic for processing the activity can be implemented in multiple ways. The Bot Framework SDK provides classes that help you build bots that manage the conversation using activity handler and dialogues. Now, activity handler are basically the event method that you can override to handle different kind of activities. Dialogues are more complex patterns for handling the stateful multi-turn conversations. Then we have testing with the bot framework emulator. So bots developed with the bot framework SDK are designed to run as cloud service in Azure. But while developing your bot, you'll need a way to test it before you deploy it into production. The Bot Framework Emulator is an application that enables you to run your bot, a local or remote web application, and connect to it from an interactive web chat interface that you can use to test your bot. Details of activity events are captured and shown in the testing interface, so you can monitor your bot's behavior as you submit the messages and review the responses. So this is how you can test your bots. Now moving forward, we have dialogues. So dialogues are the more complex conversational flows where you need to store state between the turns of to enable a multi-turn conversation. You can implement the dialogues. The Bot Framework SDK dialog library provide multiple dialog classes that you can combine to implement the required conversational flow for your bot. There are two common patterns for using dialogues to compose a bot conversation. Number one is component dialog and number two is adaptive dialog. Now, firstly, let us see what are the component dialogs. So a component dialog is a dialog that can contain other dialogues defined in the dialog set. Often the initial dialog in the component dialog is a waterfall dialog, which defines a sequential series of steps to guide the conversation. It's common for each step to be prompt dialog so that the conversational flow consists of gathering input data from the user sequentially. Each step must be completed before passing the output on to the next step. Now let us understand it with a simple example. A pizza ordering bot might be defined as a waterfall dialog in which the user is prompted to select a pizza size, then toppings, and finally prompted for the payment. So this is the component dialog. Now let's talk about the adaptive dialog. So an adaptive dialog is another kind of dialog in which the flow is more flexible, allowing for interruptions, cancellations, and context switches at any point in the conversation. In this style of conversation, the bot initiates a root dialog which contains a flow of actions as well as triggers that can be initiated by actions or by a recognizer. The recognizer analyzes natural language input and detects intents which can be mapped to triggers that changes the flow of the conversation, often by starting a new child dialog which contain their own actions, triggers and recognizers. Now, if we'll understand it from an example, I'll say the pizza ordering bot might start with a root dialog that simply welcomes the user. When the user enters the message indicating that they want to order a pizza, the recognizer detects the intent and uses a trigger to start another dialog containing the flow of actions required to gather the pizza order. At any point during the pizza order dialog, the user might enter a message indicating that they want to do something else. For example, cancel the order. And the recognizer for the pizza ordering dialog or its parent dialog can be used to trigger an appropriate change in the conversational flow. Now, this cannot happen when you are using the component dialog as they are sequential. So that's all about the adaptive dialog container.